The contract. The common man need not know the perfect language of the legal system to defend him or herself in life. They do not need to know statutes, codes, acts, stage productions, ordinances, policies, societies, bylaws, color of law. All of these constructs exist only by contract, and they apply only to employees, for those engaged in a government plot, all principals, agents, and allies. One need only know thyself and who they are. In regards to the system and who the system is, with regard to any conscious being that is not in contract with them. The contract must meet all elements of the agreement without fraud, cohesion, or deception, and full disclosure, and have understanding with the meeting of the minds between at least two conscious beings, and there must be valuable consideration. If all these elements are present, then all the government or courts must do is produce that contract. And if you have failed to perform upon the terms of your agreements, or violated those agreements, then they have the authority to hold you to it by force if necessary. But if there was no meeting of the minds or cohesion etc. to enter into a contract with anyone, if there is no record of consideration or obligation to perform, tyranny is all that remains. It is fraud and it is void, ab initio, from the beginning, as if it didn't exist at all. And by exposing the fraud will render any and all contracts null and void, non pro tunc. Fact. The courts create fictional joinder by you answering to a fictional DBA, doing business as their constructed trust, using your likeness, taken from your birth record, as an agreement to act in their corpse playouts, which renders you, non compos mentis, unable to speak for yourself. You must follow the scripted contract and perform terms of art. You are an imbecile and a ward of the court. An attempt to revive an aborted fetus, the placenta, the DNA, your blood language. One must ask them questions only, never answer theirs. Who are you? And who do you work for? And who do they work for? And so on. Do you recognize me? If someone demands to know who you are, it would stand to reason they do not know you or recognize you. And chances are you don't recognize or know them either. Yet the honorable way to deal with the forced or advances of misplaced authority would be to accept, as there must be a contract they are acting upon, and accept it for value, and offer to make good on it soon as they produce it and allow you to inspect it, so you may be clear about the terms to which you agreed to, and perform according to those terms. Or perhaps they have a mistaken identity. Allow them that way out to remain in honor for both you and them. Otherwise, they will attempt to construct a public trust in your likeness, your name, your corporation, your DBA, doing business as their rules of engagement must involve interfaceable, legal entities. They may not bring a living being into their courts or charge a living man or woman, only a corporation. That is why they're called habeas corpus. Produce the body, the evidence, the corpse. If it does not exist in nature, it is not law. There is no need for borders, nations, and money in nature. It does not recognize government badges. one may not contract with the wind or the sunlight. And to simplify things, basically everything legal is fiction. So unless you have two conscious beings, there cannot be a legitimate or binding contract. Therefore a contract between the living and the dead cannot be, and does not, and never will, exist. No laws passed after 1812 are valid. Wake up, people. Article 13, the Nobility Amendment, is in fact abundantly proven, recorded and published, demonstrates clearly, beyond any hope of a doubt, that the foreign temple Middle Temple, Inns of the Court, agents of the City of London. The Vatican is foreign, with a title of nobility. They took an oath to serve the Crown Corporation equals corpse. Their oath that accompanies that grade such a title requires strict allegiance to the codes of the Middle Temple. An attorney's first obligation is not to his client, but to the foreign corporate court. They are absolutely forbidden from holding any office of trust.
Spiritual contracts. Contract removal from media systems. I call to all spiritual contracts that exist within my past, present and future beings, selves and existences in this dimension, and time stream and all time streams above and below, the Earth-eccentric sine wave of coexistence. At this exact moment, in the ever-present co-creating moment, I summon all DNA, lineage ancestors, to create a unified proper, spiritual court of equity, so I may find remedy and resolve, with all contracts that have inserted fine print, during the pre-birth and birth process. I call forth the proper spiritual court of equity, to hear my decree of contract removal. I revoke all spiritual contracts with earth-based media systems, using domination and control as a means of energy harvesting, fear instigation or reality manipulation, with energetic propaganda technologies. I call forth all ancestors of all soul relations to hold space in this spiritual court of equity. I call to Earth Mother and all her life denizens, within all inner and outer space, to come forward and occupy this spiritual court of equity. Oh, the great mystery, who is the source of all power, I call to you. Come with your sacred synchronicity, so all beings may hold space with unity consciousness. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with all media personalities that do not have full use of their free will and full knowledge of our DNA ancestry.
A final word, if you can call yourself a true organic, living being of light, with intent on peace and love for all living matter, who knows who they are? You will feel this within the depths of your divine soul, whereas these so-called laws we have to endure are not true or just, and are only put in place to limit and divide us. Whereas these so-called laws are only there for employees of the Crown Corporation and bar members, and were introduced to us in a time long forgotten by non-human ET entities, claiming they were our ascended masters, which was all a lie, and again, keeping us organic humans from knowing quite the opposite, as we are multi-dimensional beings, and the only ones that can ascend to that status on our Mother Earth. So once we wake up and become more conscious, and this hierarchy illusion of separation will start to dissipate when we unite as one power with all that is, returning us to our true peace and harmony with the universe around us. This is their only fear, and I can tell you, we have won, and the dark is now fading away, as we can now see, with open hearts through all the lies and deception, which is their laws of legal. So, again I remind you, there is no real contracts that exist through deception, that only constitutes fraud. Where you are tricked into committing fraud unto yourself, if you are indeed a living conscious being, think about this and stay in honor to your Creator. And you will be saved when the final hammer strikes, the finishing blow.
Thank you for listening. I hope you now understand who you are and who you are not. When it comes to dealing with the Temple Bar, corporate courts,